Hey, it's Late Night Gaming from the future. I didn't have a lot of time to edit this, so enjoy no production value. Okay, bye. So, are the first 2 episodes of Halo Season 2 any good? The short answer? Yes. The long answer? Yes. Okay, it's a bit more complicated than a yes or no answer, but if it does mean anything, I did walk away from the first 2 episodes with positive first impressions. I want to talk about what I liked, what I think needs some work, and then talk about nitpicks, which Google describes as pointing out minor faults in a pedantic way, which I feel like I'm pretty good at doing. I'm going to be mostly avoiding spoilers, and instead I'll discuss spoilers in a live stream after the video goes live. So if you'd like to join later, do that, and let's get into it. First up, what did I like? Well, if you didn't know, Halo Season 2 has a new showrunner, new art director, new editors, I'm fairly sure new cinematographers, as well as new writers, etc., and it does actually kind of show. Season 2 feels more like it has an artistic vision behind it. Everything from the colors to the sets and locations, the tone, the hard-to-describe feeling of the show in motion. It's very coherent this time around. And the reason I say that is just because the first season was a bit of a mess. It had cheap-looking set design, generally bland, and definitely at worst, bad camera shots, sloppy and rushed editing, poor choreography and fight planning, and just this awful dialogue, man. And it's not as bad this time around. In fact, actually, the Halo show at times looks pretty good, like really good. The music was also good this time around too. The show's theme song is probably the best rendition of the Halo 2 monk chant since the original, at least to me. And the use of Halo-y tribal drums in the soundtrack rocked, and the music just in general, it felt more tuned to the same cadence, instruments, and genres that Halo uses in the games rather than, don't know, whatever they thought they were doing with Season 1's generic sci-fi sounding music. I'm really glad that that's gone. So Season 2 actually has a solid identity this time around. The way it's filmed, shots are composed, sets are arranged, and costumes are assembled. Well, mostly the way costumes are assembled, but I'll get into that later. It feels like there's finally a creative vision who is making sure that the whole project falls into line, rather than the first season, which definitely felt like it had been in production hell for about 10 years. The CGI can definitely be spotty, but unlike Season 1, I think just due to the way that Season 2 is filmed and shot, makes it easier for me to at least ignore the spotty CGI, because what I'm watching is visually interesting. The shots are actually cool looking, and it just has more visceral energy to it. It also helps that they're being far more clever this time around about how they use their CGI. The first season has these weird, flat, wide angles that don't even try to hide the Gumby CGI Pablo Schreiber bouncing around a CGI environment and fighting cartoon monkeys. But Season 2 so far makes good use of fog, volumetrics, claustrophobic and shaky camera work, and darkness to obscure some of the more shoddy CGI and give the action scenes less of a bad dance-off vibe and more like a genuine struggle for survival. In the first episode, there's this action sequence involving elites in the fog, and if you've watched the episode, you probably know what I'm talking about. Obviously, the CGI doesn't look photorealistic, but just because it feels more grounded and feels a little bit more creative, it's easy to kind of shut off that part of your brain that's screaming, this isn't real, what I'm looking at, and just be like, what's going on? What's going on? This is so cool. And you know something? It also handles violence a lot better than Season 1 did. The reason Season 1 of Halo's violence felt so off-putting and weird despite Halo being a violent series is just because Season 1, aesthetically it looked like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, then someone's head would explode. So it just didn't work. It didn't gel well. It felt just bizarre. Season 2 so far, it feels more gritty. Even the human places not touched by war have this kind of dark and weighted feel to them. There's this ever lingering sense of doom that's kind of hanging over the human race, and that everyone feels it even if they're not in direct conflict. And it makes the show look less like this polished, sanitized soap opera. And due to that, the violence actually works this time around. That's not to say it's all gritty and grim and miserable and nobody can have fun, because the show is actually funny sometimes. And it's not funny in the Marvel, like, haha, we don't take anything seriously. We're embarrassed about the fact we're making a superhero movie kind of way. It's more in the way of like Joe Staten's humor from the Bungie Halo games and the way that those landed. So Bentley Kalu, who actually plays the Spartan Vanek, he's like a funny guy, which you wouldn't really get from the first season. And he does a really good job at the funny military trash talk, a bit like Johnson or Master Guns from Halo 2, if you remember. Kai continues to be fantastic. Riz is also getting a bit more character development this time around, and I gotta say, it's actually working for me. Riz so far is kind of taking me a little bit by surprise. Her story is kind of interesting. Oh, and remember Parangoski from season 1? The role she had in this season I think is actually much better for her and makes me actually root for her, whereas in season 1 she just seemed miserable. Well, I guess the rest of the characters were miserable as well, so that's not exactly her fault. She does actually remind me of a good thought I had so far. So I like that everyone is getting along better here. Season 1 felt like it wanted this Walking Dead style interpersonal drama, and it wanted it so bad. And so because of that, everyone was constantly bickering and arguing, and just the foundation of the show and their characterization was built around everybody having an excuse to argue with each other. And it just got exhausting, and it made me hate all of these people who couldn't get anything done because they were so dysfunctional. For season 2 though, they get rid of a lot of that. Everyone mostly trusts and works together with each other. This time, the distrust and the interpersonal drama comes from an outside force. So there's this guy named Ackerson, who, if you are a fan of the lore, yeah, Ackerson is here. He's a little bit different from how he was in the Halo game canonicity? Yeah, I'll just say that. But he still is here as this compelling Oni sleazebag, and he works really well. The actor actually puts in a lot of work into making him just feel like kind of like this. He's constantly masking. Like, you just want to punch him in the face because not a single word out of his mouth comes across as genuine. He's constantly manipulating people around him. And it's good. It's really good stuff. Making him the source of the drama in the show feels far better than just making everybody hate each other. And speaking of being like the games, I appreciate the effort that's being put into sort of dismantling and taking down a lot of the dumb stuff from season 1. So the show wasn't going to be canceled. They weren't going to start over. That's not the reality of how these things kind of work. The train had already left the station, so to speak, and so it needed to be fixed in motion. What's nice so far is that the damage season 1 caused is being minimized really hard by season 2. Quan is being used far more creatively this time around. Soren, well, Soren is hard to talk about without spoilers, but I think what they're doing is they are putting him on a path that will lead to a far more interesting story than where we left him off with in season 1. And they're thankfully not trying to explore Chief's humanity so far, but rather they're just trying to make Chief a soldier who's doing everything he can to protect people, and some people from Oni are getting in his way, much to his frustration. I'm actually with Chief. He's in the right here. I believe in him. He doesn't feel like the Master Chief, you know? He'll always be just Pablo Schreiber's take on Master Chief. But as a hero here, this is a version of Master Chief that I am growing to actually kind of like. I think it says something that whenever Pablo Schreiber would walk into a room in the show now, I actually feel kind of like, oh, thank God, like he's gonna get something done. And here's the thing, though, that is consistent about season 1. Regardless of writing, Pablo Schreiber's a great actor, and he's putting his whole Badussi into the role of Master Chief. And thankfully, this time around in season 2, his take on Chief is actually likable, so it just elevates his acting even more. So during the first 2 episodes of season 2, we had scenes where he wasn't in his armor, and at first I wasn't sure why it wasn't bothering me like it did in season 1. And then my wife pointed out that they were really focusing a lot on his surgical scars with the camera, and the costume work made him sort of look like a hulking Frankenstein monster when compared to other people. He doesn't spend a lot of time in that stupid undersuit from season 1. He's usually wearing short sleeve shirts and stuff. He's wearing low cut shirts that really show off the surgical scars on the back of his neck, and it does kind of make him look like this patched together monster. So wherever he is, whoever he's talking to, armor or not, you can see that he's not like most people, and that he looks off and he looks kind of wrong. And so that Master Chief presence follows Pablo out of the suit this time, and it is working for me. Obviously, I wouldn't want that for the games. You know, I think Master Chief being the guy in the helmet is kind of his whole thing for the games, but Pandora's box is already open for the show, all right? And so focusing on the fact that Chief is not like other humans, it's a clever way to get around the fact that, well, his helmet's gonna be off. Let's at least make him look like a Spartan, like he can't sit comfortably in a chair. You know? It's not perfect though. Like there are some just weird, dumb moments that they put Master Chief in where it's like, you didn't need to make him go to a hologram brothel, which feels like a holdover from season 1, which I guess we should probably discuss the things that I didn't like about the show, and I hope it cleans up pretty quickly. So Soren, his wife, Cruella de Vil, unfortunately still exist and continue to feel weird and kind of out of place in Halo. I don't know, man. You know, I feel like the strongest part of Soren was his tie to the Spartan program, and literally everything else, his wife, his kid, the crime syndicate stuff, none of that was compelling. Soren is currently being shuffled over to a more interesting story, but his wife, the crime syndicate stuff, and his kid are now being explored on their own. And what I'm saying here is, no, the problem isn't that they're shallow. They are shallow and kind of boring. It's just that they're not interesting, and exploring them doesn't make them more interesting. It just turns it into an excuse to go to the bathroom. I'm not interested in Cruella de Vil or this crime syndicate stuff, so forcing it on me isn't gonna make me like it. Please end it quickly. There's this scene where a crime syndicate is sort of auctioning off survivors of glassed planets as slaves, and the costumes in the scene felt, I guess, cringy? It reminded me a lot of some of the just bizarre costume choices in season 1, especially that woman with the top hat who I guess was supposed to look like kind of like a post-apocalyptic circus ringmaster as she auctioned off slaves, which is ironic since everyone in that scene with their bad costumes kind of looked like out-of-place clowns in Halo. There was also this shaman in the first episode who gave me the same vibes that those mystics in season 1 did. I don't know, man, just like these weird, colorful, extravagant human costumes and mystical or Mad Maxy human characters just don't really fit the Halo universe for me. And I wish Paramount would stop trying to make them work. Like, you have aliens, for crying out loud, religious aliens as well. If you need to have mystics and shamans, why not just make them the Covenant? You ever seen those prophets? They look pretty shaman-y and mystic-y, right? Let the humans feel more grounded. Like, human religion exists in Halo, but this whole, I see your future, Spartan, look into the crystal ball type stuff just isn't needed in Halo. The mysticism works a lot better for the Covenant characters. For humans, it just feels like someone at Paramount is really salty that they can't use the Jedi in their shows, so they opted for Dollar Tree versions of Jedi. Just like, stop it with the shamans and the mystics and stuff. Speaking of Dollar Tree versions of things from Halo, the Cortana redesign, I don't know, man, like, you know, season 1 Cortana, she had some problems. It was kind of like weird that she looked almost like Jen Taylor, but there was that digitally fakeness to her. But this redesign that they did for season 2, I like it less. Like, I actually prefer season 1's Cortana design. I don't know, she has like this bad bowl-like wig, or as my wife described it, it looks like a helmet that she's wearing. Like, this Cortana redesign, I understand where they're coming from and why they wanted to redesign Cortana for season 2, but this design is worse. It's not working. I feel like the weapon or Cortana herself in Halo Infinite are two different ways to modernize the classic Cortana look, and they did them really well. I just sort of wish that the Halo show would nick those CGI assets for Cortana from 343 that I know that they have in their offices somewhere, just because, like, this can't become a trend, I guess. They can't keep redesigning Cortana every season. They need to find a design that just works, and I feel like the 2 Cortana designs that Halo Infinite presented, those work. So all Paramount has to do is pick one, because their original Cortana designs they're not working. They're not sticking the landing. So default to what works. And also, without going into spoilers, there's a certain character that's back. that I was hoping would be gone from the show. So this character's return, obviously I'm sure that the character's return is going to be explained as the story progresses. It's not that I'm like, how is this character back? This is bad writing, because I don't know what the show's going to tell me later. You know, this isn't like the typical internet outrage stuff. It's more that I object to the concept of the character, I guess. So the fact that the character is returned, I'm just kind of here like, yeah, I thought I was done. Like, I thought we were past this. Why is this character back? I hope that, well, if this character's back, I just can't do it, man. I hate. I hope that we don't see again. Please, man. Why is back? So all in all, it's not bad, surprisingly. Most of my complaints are about the C plots rather than the actual A plots, and the show is quickly working to resolve and get rid of a lot of those C plots and the kind of bad conceptual stuff from season 1, even if some elements of season 1 are still lingering. With season 1 of Halo, I hated almost everyone, with the sole exception of Kai, who was a lot of fun. And I'm not saying that I hated the actors, by the way, just the characters that they played. They weren't very likable. In season 2, though, the actors are still here, but their characters are much more likable, which is a bonus for me. So you've got good acting and fun characters. I hope that as the show goes on, we begin to truly shed off some of the crime syndicate stuff, the weird human mystics, and focus more on the human race grappling with this war against an alien threat. The internal drama and politics can come from Oni being annoying and sneaky, and without giving too much away, they seem to be steering all of these random plot threads towards a place where it can sort of fall in line with the chronology of the games. I understand that some people just don't want to give the show a second chance, you know, especially after Master Cheeks, and I don't blame them, but I'm one of the people who is willing to give the show another chance. And if it's a compliment, I walked away from the first 2 episodes of season 2 feeling excited and sort of fanboy-y for Halo, rather than angry, because, you know, it's hard being a Halo fan. I want more episodes, and I want them now. And yeah, we will be seated, as my wife said. Yeah, I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. The comments section is down below. If you want to be angry, you can be angry there. If you want to be positive, you can also be positive down there. But as for me, I don't have anything clever to say.